Welcome to the Quebec and New England Railroad Southern Division HO Layout video number 85. This video series follows the efforts of the Q&NE Mechanical Department in converting a fully assembled and painted Intermountain GP10 into Q&NE GP10 number 70. Part 6, Final Details and Reassembly, but first a taste of the finished product. I hate to have to do this. It looks like it's so close to being finished, but we do have to take all the main body parts apart to finish off all the little details. So everything comes off. There you go. This we'll put aside till we get some handrails. So here we want to do the marker lights, headlights. We need to take off the masking tape here on the headlights. We need to install the windows, and around the back of this one put in marker light. So let's get started. So here we have all our window inserts plus the insert for the headlight and number board. I'm going to try that first. These pieces are a little bit loose, but let's see how this goes. Yeah, I think that's it. It didn't have any glue holding it in, so I'm not sure I'm going to use any glue to put it back. If it falls out with some handling, then I might have to put a dab of glue, but I think I'm going to leave it like that. Okay. Now let's see about getting that masking tape off the headlight. Just a tiny, tiny bit. There we go, one piece. And the second piece. There we are. Not too bad. There you go. Here's a closer look at the inside. All right. The next part of this exercise requires a different product. We haven't talked about this before. This is microcrystal clear. This is a product that's used to create windows as well as glue windows in. I've learned the hard way that trying to glue windows will sometimes cause a haze on the plastic, depending on the type of glue and the type of plastic. So this product here acts as an adhesive and is guaranteed not to cause any hazing of the glass, so it doesn't look foggy after you've glued it in. So let's go ahead and try that. All right, we got the two rear ones in. As you may recall, we had some cracked windows before, but those will hopefully be hidden by the windshield wipers. You'll see there's some discoloration. You can see that the glue, it looks like a white glue, but it actually dries clear. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how we do it. So using a fine tip brush, you can see it does look a lot like white glue, but there's only a tiny amount on the tip of the brush, and you basically go around the edge of the window. Making sure not to get too much beyond where the window is, even though it does dry clear. Here's a closer view of it. See, there's just a tiny amount of the glue. And I will take one of the window inserts. And by the way, I went around with a black felt tip pen around the edges of the windows to simulate the black gasket, because it's awfully hard to do after they're installed. So there, and then you just squeeze it in gingerly with your fingernails so it sits in the window area. You can feel it sliding in. There we go. Like I said, any of that white excess will dry clear, so you don't have to worry about that. So we're going to go ahead and do the rest of these, and then we'll show you when it's done. Here we have the completed cab, windshields only. You see all the windshields have been installed. And what we've got to do next is put in the windshield wipers. And those we're going to use a dab of ACC rather than the microcrystal, because we want those things to really stay in place. And we're going to have to widen out the tiny holes that are probably filled with paint at this point before we try and reinsert them. Funny story. These windshield wipers have wings. I was picking this guy up. This is the double windshield wiper that goes in the front windshield. Picking it up with my tweezers, and like magic it vanished into thin air. Obviously I clipped it and gave it some energy and it went flying. I've just spent the last 25 minutes on my hands and knees on the floor looking for it, and I did find it finally in a rather improbable location, but I had already stepped on it, so it's bent. I'm going to have to straighten that out carefully so it doesn't break. Just lessons learned, perhaps, when using these small bits and pieces. Work in an enclosed box in case they go flying. Anyway, this is the smallest drill bit I have. I'm assuming it's a number 80, so we're going to use this to remount a little bit the holes for the windshield wipers. Okay, now let's try and get these to fit. Straighten these out a little bit. This is about to break. Better glue it in before that happens. And here's our finished cab. All of the windshield wipers are in. The two over the front that are joined together, that bar did break, in fact, but I was able to CA it together so it doesn't look too bad. And we've got the wipers in the back as well. So this piece is done, all the windows in, all the washers in. Now we'll move on to the class lights on the short hood and the long hood. Well, the trick to getting these tiny class lights in the hood is to apply a bit of CA on your knife and fill the hole smush it around. It helps to use a gel type glue, obviously. But if you get some glue on the inside of the hole from the inside, and then grab your glass light, and it actually does have an orientation, but it will turn around after you put it inside. Make sure it doesn't go flying. Alright, pop it inside. There we go. And yeah. First one went in well. I thought I could videotape this one, but this one doesn't want to go in as well. Alright. Let's try a different tool. Here we have our nose complete with the headlights reinstalled as well as the markers. I learned my lesson trying to do these markers when putting the glue in first. That didn't quite work. I put the markers in the second time and then put a dab of glue around it with the sharp knife. Much easier. So just like our windshield wipers, the last marker light went flying when I tried to pick it up with the tweezers, and I'm not about to go looking for something that tiny and clear. So I tried a little experiment. I took some of the microcrystal clear and dabbed it from the inside, a blob of it, in the hole where the marker would go. And you see it's just popping out on this side. Now if this stuff dries clear like it's supposed to, that might make a decent marker light. So it's an experiment. We'll see how it turns out. On this side, we were never able to get that one out when we were disassembling the locomotive, so I just scraped away the paint that was on it, and hopefully it'll be okay. The last thing to do now is to scrape off the masking tape from the headlights, because I wasn't able to get those out either. Our little experiment was a success. You can see that by pointing a flashlight. There we go. See the light coming through the marker light, headlight, and markers on both sides. And the same thing can be said for the nose. Light shining through markers and headlight. And cab, similarly. So, that's good news. It means that you can use this product to fill in holes for markers and headlights if you're missing a piece. Interesting. The very last thing I think we have left to do before final reassembly of our locomotive is to add the silver that we painted over for the tips of the hoses. And what we're going to do for that first is slide a piece of paper, and this is some leftover decal sheet, to protect the area below the hoses from getting some silver paint on it. And then we're going to use some old silver leftover with a very, very, very fine tip brush, and see how that goes. And there we have the front end done, and we'll take a stab now at doing the back end. if you feel you've gone a little bit too far with the silver while it's wet, you can, with your blade, scrape the silver off. Keeping in mind that underneath the silver and underneath the black paint is the original silver, so don't be afraid to scrape the black paint off that you've already painted. So I think that looks okay. If you recall back at the beginning of this video series, we talked about how the assembly of these various parts were tongue and groove. There's a groove along the bottom of the shell that fit into a tongue that's in the bottom of the frame. So before we try and reassemble, we need to clean out any paint from this groove, and the way I'm doing that is using the back side. It's a fairly sharp corner and it seems to fit perfectly. Back side of this blade, just running it back and forth gently to clear out any paint that's in that groove, so when we try and slide the parts together, it all fits snugly as it should on the frame. I'll also scrape the frame a little bit where I see any paint on the original tongue, and then and only then, when I'm satisfied that it's snug and together, I'll put a few dabs of glue to hold the whole package together before it goes on the frame of the locomotive. So we're just scraping off some of the paint on the tongue so the nose slides in to place snugly where it originally was before we added all these layers of paint. Have a look at that. How's that? There we go. There, so you can see there's the tongue with the original orange color underneath. Done a little bit on this side because it's hidden. I'm hesitating to do it up here because I don't want to take off too much black, because I want the black to show where it meets the edge of the hood. So we're going to test fit that, see how it goes. Alright, here we go. Let's see if the nose fits. Alright. Looks like it does. It's as far north as it's going to go. Alright. Now we're going to do the same thing with the hood. The challenge is the cab fits onto the hood like that. So this all has to slide in as one piece, but I see some gaps here between the cab and the hood, and I'm not sure whether that's from paint. So I'm going to, just as a precaution, take some of the paint off so it sits more snugly like that. I'll be right back. So it turns out that there was some glue along the edge of the hood that I've now scraped off. There were also a couple of tabs at the back of the cab that I can't for the life of me figure out how they would have allowed the cab and the hood to fit well together, but with them now removed, I've got, I think, a nice snug fit between the back of the cab and the long hood. So this should allow the entire assembly to go together much better. reassembled cab and hood. Although it does look a little bit off here, so we're going to have to investigate and see what's holding it back. We're almost there. We're almost there. Well, here you are with our finished, or as finished as it's going to be for some time, locomotive. You can see I've got handrails on one side. These came off fairly well when I was disassembling the locomotive, so I was able to preserve the little nibs that go into the holes. I painted the end handrails with railbox yellow. These handrails in the front were the ones that Intermountain had sent me, and this one here in front, again, I was able to preserve most of the nibs, so I can probably get that one to work. I painted the ends yellow. I've got another set of rear handrails that I've painted up, but the nibs are missing from 3 out of the 4, so I could probably make that work by gluing it in place. But unfortunately, I don't have a set of handrails for the backside here because the ones that I took off really suffered too much from the removal process. So I'm hopefully going to get a replacement set from Intermountain. Interesting to note that when I reassembled the parts, because of the tight fit of the hood on the mechanism inside, I didn't really have to glue it together. The tongue and groove connection between the hood and the running boards and the nose and the cab really hold it together snugly, so I really didn't have to glue it, which is good, because if I ever have to take it apart again, it would be easy enough to do. So couplers are on. She's ready to go for a road test on the layout. This pretty much wraps up, I guess, the series on my conversion of the Intermountain GP10 to Quebec and New England number 70. I hope you've enjoyed this series, and I look forward to running her on the layout, and you'll see her there next.